Welcome everybody. This is our Monday morning briefing for the week of May 3rd, 2021. We are going to go ahead and open right up with Superior Court. Judge Goodell.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Coming before the board this morning on behalf of the Courthouse Security Committee.
Hold on.
So this is not just the Superior Court, and Kelly Frazier is also here today. He's also involved in the committee, and of course he is the one responsible for overseeing the courthouse security personnel. I want to start by explaining what the committee has been looking to. We think it's important to better define the role of the courthouse security officer. There's been Pacific Security specifically has been engaged with the county providing courthouse security for a considerable period of time. And there sometimes seems to be a misunderstanding of expectations of the security personnel. And so we thought it'd be important to define what the expectations are and then be able to match the expectations with a clear understanding of security roles. I say that in light of we are not critical of the way that Pacific Security has been performing its services. They have done an outstanding job, and we are pleased with the efforts that they continue to make to keep our courthouses secure. The second point I'd like to raise is that the focus of courthouse security is not law enforcement. It is security. Security of our courthouse facilities, and there is and that is expanded to the general county. I don't know what I'm hearing right now.
Kelly, that's yours that's going off, I think.
And that's expanded when we utilize the roamer from courthouse security, who checks on various locations throughout the county campus. First, I'd like to focus on the ultimate request of the committee, and that as far as staffing. The committee is recommending that there be 3 officers assigned to the main courthouse. 2 of those officers would be armed and 1 would be unarmed, and Pacific Security calls that unarmed person as less than lethal. And then at the building 10, which is the new district courthouse, that it would be staffed with 2 officers, 1 armed and 1 unarmed. I think it's important to recognize in this request that throughout the United States, there is an incident of a courthouse violence occurring on a daily basis. Courthouses are considered a soft target and a high profile target. And so oftentimes the violence that occurs at courthouses comes with deadly force. So we believe it's appropriate and necessary for courthouse security to be able to respond to deadly force with deadly force. And that is why we are requesting the armed officers both at the main facility and at the new district courthouse. The reason for 2 armed in the main courthouse is that, as we talked about briefly, one of those officers is a roamer. And not only roam throughout the campus, but also assigned to other courthouse facilities, such as the juvenile courtroom and the modular courtroom, depending upon the calendars that are present. And we want that person to be armed in that role. So keeping 1 armed in the main courthouse and then the other armed assigned out of the courthouse. Attached to the briefing is a list of recommendations. And the way that we look at this is that this is a contract between the county and Pacific Security presently. And so what we are requesting is that the contract come with a description of the various specifics that we have in our recommendations. We develop these recommendations working with Pacific Security. It is our understanding that all these recommendations outside of the numbers of officers are within the financial expectations of Pacific Security. In other words, by defining this, we are not increasing the likelihood that they're going to be asking for more funds to perform their job. It's all pretty well self-explanatory. I'm just going to touch on a couple of items in here. The first item is the shifts. Currently, what we see is that courthouse security is on the job. And Kelly, correct me at any time if you believe that my observations are somewhat wrong. On the job by 8 o'clock. And our courthouse building facility opens up at 8:15. They leave at 4:30. Except for if there is something happening in the courthouse, such as a docket has gone past 4:30, there's a wedding, any number of those type of things, when the courthouse is considered still open, they being one or two will remain. What we would like to see is to split the three on the main courthouse so that one shows up at 7:45 and they're there before the staff start coming in. They're to report to work at 8 o'clock. And then one on the other end of it stays until 5:15 until the staff leaves. There's a period of time in the evening from 4:30 until the staff leaves, typically at 5 o'clock or shortly after 5 o'clock, that there's no security here. If there is going to be a concern about someone's violence, it does not necessarily mean that it has to occur while the court is in session. It could be directed at any given staff person, and we think that it'd be appropriate and not that big of an adjustment for Pacific Security to stagger their shifts in that fashion. We already talked briefly about the roaming. Kelly put together a roaming list that the Pacific Security now utilizes on a daily basis, that they will check various portions of the campus throughout the day. The number 3 on the list deals with the courthouse environment, and the recommendation of the committee is that that the goal of security is just that they're not law enforcement. If a crime occurs in their presence, they're not to arrest. They are to document and report. However, if there is a scenario where someone harm is threatened, they will step in and protect the individual, the parties that are being threatened. If it requires them to detain somebody pending law enforcement's response, they will detain. Their goal, again, is to observe, report, and defend. And time and again, we will have someone leave the courtroom that we don't want to leave the courtroom. And they may, in the most extreme situations, they may be in custody and leave. And in some situations, they're just being remanded into custody and they refuse and they just leave. Typically, they run. By the time that the people downstairs know what's going on upstairs, they're out the door. They'll just notice someone running. And keeping in mind that sometimes people run out of the courthouse for different reasons. One scenario explained to me by Pacific Security that there was a guy that ran from the courthouse, and the security was wondering about whether they should be detaining or stopping this person. Well, it turns out that he just found out that one of his family members was in a serious accident and needed to get there right away. I mean, so they never really know what's going on down there. We think it's best just if someone's running, as long as no one is being threatened at that time, it's not their job to detain that person. There's two parts of this that we have not developed well enough for the board to really consider, but these are things that we are looking to. We need to get IT involved. We want the security to be able to monitor the courtroom. Some of our courtrooms have a camera in them that can be closed circuit TV, and they can monitor those. As you're probably aware, we have this JAB system in our courtrooms that records everything that happens in our courtrooms, and that includes videos. That is not accessible. So there's a couple of courtrooms, at least, that we are aware of that do not connect to a closed circuit TV, and we will work through IT with that and try to figure out how that could possibly be, work here in the main courthouse, and come back to the board if we believe that that is a feasible solution to monitor. The idea in that is that right now the security does not know when there's something going on in a courtroom that should not be going on in the courtroom unless we call. And that call literally is by cell phone. They have a cell phone down there. And sometimes that's not feasible. So having a monitor, they can see that. Now, I believe that building 10 may already have something like that, and maybe that's a something that Kelly probably has a better understanding of than I do. The other suggestion from the committee is to have be part of a radio system where they are able to have conversations with themselves throughout the campus. And this is more important now that we have building 10 and they're spread further apart. If there's an incident that one needs to respond to, it would be helpful if they were able to communicate with each other. Now, certainly they have cell phones, and that's a possibility as well, but the walkie-talkie setup might be a better approach. Again, we haven't developed that. We don't know whether that's even feasible, and as to whether there's another channel that's available to them, similar to what the facilities have. On contraband, their job is not to confiscate. If there's contraband they see, they tell the person that cannot come in the courthouse. That person then takes whatever it is that's contraband and leaves. We already talked about securing and controlling scenes. Again, if there's an incident in the courtroom or courthouse, their job is to protect, to secure, and to defend. First aid is not mandated on them. However, they are trained in first aid, and at their discretion, they can provide it if they feel that it is necessary. And then finally, there was a fair amount of discussion about them denying entrance to people who may be under the influence in their view or not. And we said, no, let the judges deal with people coming in their courtrooms. If they believe they're inappropriate, they will deal with it. So that's a brief outline of what we are proposing. Ultimately, what we would like to see is the board consider this, adopt this as far as a detailed expectation of security personnel, and then move forward from there. So with that, Kelly, is there anything that you wanted to touch on that I might?
No, I think you did just fine there.
Okay. What about the channels and availability?
For the radios?
Yes.
So we have a radio in facilities that we talk back and forth. That's what actually was going off and told me it was my noise. And we could definitely share that with them so they could have that.
Well, is there another one available instead of sharing it? And what would it take to utilize that?
I will find that out. Okay. I'm sure there is.
Yeah. Commissioners, questions?
Hey, Kelly, what about the cameras?
The cameras right now are going in. IT is putting the cameras up in the outside of Building 10, in the lobby of Building 10, in the basement of the courthouse. We have one in case somebody comes through that door. and they can monitor them off of a computer monitor. And we also have has a TV monitor that they can put on. The only issue we had with that at the beginning was then if we put that up at the station, anybody will be able to see that same monitor that's coming in. And so we just strategically have to place that monitor where only they can see it.
Does our law enforcement also have direct access to that if they need it or want it?
Yes, they could.
They could or they do?
They don't, but IT could. It's web-based, so IT could make anybody who had that IP address have it.
We probably should, we have them on right here. We probably should make that connection to them and make it available to them as soon as possible anyway, in case they ever need it. Hopefully they never will, but.
Okay.
Other questions?
Yeah, so I guess obviously there's some costs to be determined. Certainly would put a priority on courthouse security. I'm pretty sure that this is something that we were factoring in our thinking when we did the expansion to Building 10. So it's not a surprise that this is coming forward. Practically speaking, next steps would be, I see in terms of costs, you have listed here just the board negotiating with the contractor. And so just practically speaking, do we have an idea of, have those conversations started, or are we waiting to hear from us to get those conversations started, or kind of what's the anticipation there in terms of next steps?
Well, what I believe, and Kelly, again, correct me if I'm wrong, right now, Building 10 is being staffed on a as-need basis, and the contract does allow for that to occur. There's just an additional charge for that. And again, Building 10, our needs of Building 10 are not daily. And so we let both District Court and Superior Court are using Building 10, and we are letting Pacific Security know the evening before what our needs are, whether we're up or not up the next day as far as being utilized. And then sometimes, again, all Building 10 is being used for is District Court and Superior Court trials, jury trials. Sometimes we start up a jury trial first thing in the morning and something happens and it's gone. Okay. And so then they just reassign to other campus work when that occurs. But all this is happening on is it a purchase order setup, Kelly? I don't.
It's just an extension of our contract.
Okay.
That basically by the hour type of armed, unarmed personnel. And we let them know, ultimately try to let them know 24 hours in advance, and they've worked with us very well.
Yeah, and so I think that defining this long-term is probably what we're looking to, especially when we get to phase 2 Building 10. And is it feasible to keep it going just like it is without any further contractual changes? That's up to the board, how they wish to pursue it.
Kelly, do you know when the current contract with them is back up for renegotiation?
Yeah, December 31st.
Okay. And do we typically do that year to year, or is that a multi-year?
It started out with a 2-year with up to a 3-year amendment if needed. But yeah, year to year at this point in time.
Okay.
So a couple things. I'd like to know on the roaming, the one that's roaming, it's nice to have them, and I agree with that, but how effective is it? Would you know? One of the problems that I see here that we're facing is we don't have the person that's in charge of this entity even here on our call. When the sheriff decided they no longer wanted to handle that, we went to the courts, and the courts didn't want to put security underneath you. So we ended up putting them underneath the clerk, and the clerk is not here, which is, kind of unusual when we're talking about somebody in positions that are underneath them. Your Honor, why is it that the courts did not want them underneath you again? I don't remember, honestly. That's why I'm asking you.
Occurred before I came on the bench.
Oh, Okay.
And Randy, I believe they took that away from the clerk.
Who did?
I guess I'm not sure on that. And I have took over the finance part of it, the budget part of it. And I think the clerk still has the part where they call and say who they need, when they need, and how they need.
Okay, because, well, the one we put it underneath is the clerks. We've never taken it away, that's for sure. I appreciate if you're doing the financial part, and I'm sure it was absolutely needed when we did it, as I know the issues that we've had over the past, so I appreciate you taking that on. Somehow we need to, as commission, need to look at that and figure that out again and see how that is structured and maybe do some changes on that, or keep it the same. But another, I'm curious, is the roaming one effective? Is there anything actually coming from that? Or is that a position or an amount of time that can be directed towards Building 10?
Commissioner, if I might
Please.
answer that one, that was probably me asking for that.
Asking for what? I'm sorry.
Asking for a roamer, a roaming security officer. It's more for how do I want to say this? It's more for so that people can see somebody out there walking around, knowing that somebody is watching. It's in other positions where I worked, it's good to have some sort of security walking around just for people to see. It's not that they're going to, jump out and take control of a situation or anything else, but it's more of a deterrent. And I do know that they're doing a great job. During our courthouse security meetings, we've had some very good discussions, and knowing that people in other offices have noticed that they're walking around, it does help others know or feel a little bit more safe.
And I do remember that we, as a commission, had that put into the contract to have for that roamer that was to be roaming when they weren't doing other duties. I'm just trying to remember exactly how we specified that other duties at the time, because it's been a while. But I'm wondering, is it effective for a cost saving? Is it a necessity? Something maybe we should look at and consider. I know myself, when I've seen them walking down the street, to be honest with you, my first impression was I thought they were just going for a walk. I didn't think of them as being a part of the complex. Then I watched them walk in the building, spend about 3 seconds and walk back out the building. And then I realized what they were doing as they walked back towards the courthouse. So, but maybe it's something that, for cost savings, because we've got a lot of changes coming before us here shortly. I just wanted to know if we had any documentation on the roaming and what's come from that. But again, Kelly probably wouldn't even be the one to do that. It should be the clerk at this time that would notice that. But
I do know we do have the roamer in ultimately when we wasn't doing that third court, like maybe in the basement of building 3, that person could go and roam. I know they helped out the elections department when they were picking up ballots. I know they helped out the treasurers when they were picking up money and going to the bank and stuff and just walking around.
So there is a purpose, and it sounds like it's effective with what Commissioner Trask added, what you just added. It sounds like it's actually serving a pretty good purpose at the moment. That's what I'm hearing.
Keep in mind that is a position here. That third officer is utilized, as Kelly just got done indicating, in the juvenile courtroom on virtually every day of the week, depending upon what the need is. And so if we have a court in session, such as the juvenile offender court or dependency court, any number of courts over there, we'll have an officer over there. So that third position, that's where they are. And then when they're not doing that, they're available for roaming. So
commissioners, how do we want to take this up? We want to look at this a little bit further, have some further discussions, perhaps have Frank look into the contracts a little bit and reach out and see what type of numbers they may be talking. or nothing at all.
I think before I would agree firmly, I'd want to see the numbers. You know, how much is it going to cost us, and define the need.
Okay. Commissioner Shooty?
Yeah, I can go with that.
Okay, so Frank, can we have you, are you the one that handles the contracts on this one?
Yes, and I can work with the judge and Kelly to come up with some prospective costs on the modification of the programs.
Can you also make sure the clerk is in the loop until we determine how to do this or what to do? And I don't want to make it seem unappreciated, because I want to say at the time when it was the past clerk that was there, that she took that on, it was a savings to us, because we all agreed it shouldn't be underneath the commission, and at least directly. And the courts at the time didn't want them. So again, I just want to make sure they're in the loop, but not throw them under the bus. But if they're not the right fit for now, if there's another opportunity, we may want to look at that too.
Okay, I will include them as well, and maybe come up with some options for what might be better serving the county.
Gotcha.
That's funny. I just thought it was the judge all the time.
Yeah, I know. We all thought it should have been.
The clerk is an active member of the committee. She thought I was the head of the subgroup, and I also chair the committee right now. And so that is why I'm the speaker today.
One other thing I'd like to ask or let you know, Your Honor, your mic is the one that we can't hardly hear at all. At least I can't. And because of that, we have to turn it up way up for the others. So I don't know if there's something you can do, but in our briefings, yours is the only one that does that. So it's very, very low for us.
I will keep that in mind in the future. I have another way of doing things. I just haven't been able to figure out how to do it with you guys. So.
Yeah. But even when you're talking loud, we see you trying to put it out there. It just doesn't come across the same. Commissioners, anything?
Me.
Oh, I'm good. Appreciate all your hard work, though.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. We will take some of this into consideration and look at the next steps. We have Frank and them looking at some of the options to bring back to us for a future briefing. Are you comfortable with that?
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Everybody have a good day. Thank you.
You too. Okay. Next up is the Sheriff's Office. Chief Hansen is leading this one.
Yeah, I'm here, Commissioner. Thank you. You hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I can hear you clear.
So this budget item, this briefing item has to do with the renewal of a contract to provide EHM equipment services to the jail. This contract is a addendum to the old contract, which expired on May 1st. This contract allows us access to a couple of additional services provided by alcohol monitoring services. One of those is a mobile service where they allow the use of cell phones to help track and better communicate with the clients. And the other one is a service that provides victim notifications. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to utilize those services, but the services are available. And this is a 3-year contract. There's no additional expenses unless we choose to use one of those services or both of those services. The rates are still the same for the alcohol monitoring and as well as the GPS monitoring capabilities.
I'm supportive, Commissioners.
I'm good.
Same here.
Yep, we'll go ahead and move forward, Chief.
Okay.
So with that, I need to apologize. The reason why I introduced the Sheriff's Office under Chief Hansen is because that's what it says on my agenda. I see that the Undersheriff is here and there are other things on the agenda other than Chief Hansen. So if you don't mind, Undersheriff Adams, would you like to take over introduction of what we're doing next, please?
Yeah, actually, it's going to be Chief Trackleby, who's going to talk to you about the body cams and the car cams. So this has been an ongoing conversation for a while now, and he's got the follow-up information after the show and tell that you guys came to, that you requested to be brought to you in another briefing. So he's up.
Okay, I appreciate that. That's why, and I see it here, but I just thought it's best if you decide who speaks when on your time. My apologies. Chief Trackleby.
Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for your time.
Good morning.
Again, thank you for showing up for those show displays that I had going on. I do appreciate that, and I know the sheriff does too. I hope they were informative for you in understanding what the technology is and why we're looking at what we're looking at. Clearly, recent events in the last year have driven the need or the request from the citizens for more transparency and accountability to law enforcement. And in that, I think that probably one of the best ways to do that is through the body cams and the car cam systems. And associated with that is workload. And I've made a request for an FTE to follow along with this project. I'm not sure where you'd like to go on this. I know that I've briefed 2 times before last year, I think it was, and then showing you guys all the 2 systems that I like. And the best one that I like is that GTAC system that we came up with. Commissioner Netherland, during the displays, you'd asked us to look into the laptops and such, and
Yes.
I added those quotes in there. There's 3 quotes from GTAC. One of them's body cam, car cam. The next quote is a body cam, car cam with a built-in computer, and then the follow-on one for $925,000 is one with brand new laptops, ruggedized laptops. Right now, the sheriff's office is doing pretty good with the laptops that we do have and the equipment that we have. I don't think that we necessarily need to get new laptops. If you want to give them to us, that's great, but I don't think we need to.
Chief, what about that built-in system? That's the second one that you're talking about here. That's the one you were saying that if anything, you'd really appreciate if we had.
That would work. It does cost another $120,000, I think, or $100,000 more than just the body cam, car cam system. And what that is, it's the same hard drive unit that's running the camera system in the car. They add in a couple of computer chips, and now we've got a full-fledged i7 Windows 10 based computer that can run all of our stuff. We wouldn't have to necessarily have a laptop in the car. We would end up having a screen and a keyboard. It doesn't necessarily really free up any room. It's still basically the same room as we've got in the cab of the car.
So let me ask this way: is this something if you had your choice, is something you would like to have, or is this something I should not be considering?
I wouldn't mind it, but I really want the body cams and the car cams for the sheriff's office. That's the priority here, and I think that's the drive behind what's going on out there in the public. In the
Now, what was the trigger mechanism on the one that you selected here?
I like their customer service. I've got quick contact with the representative. He's a local out of Olympia, and he's actually a local from the Shelton area. Grew up here, and he's driven to get this product to Mason County. I think that that's going to be our better product. Motorola does not have the product in Washington as of right now, and GTAC has a few places in Washington that have it. And I'm comfortable with running in that direction.
Okay. Commissioners.
Chief, appreciate you putting this together and getting those demonstrations scheduled for us as well. So the FTE request on this, just from a sort of logistical hiring perspective, how does that line up with what it would take? How would you time that with what it would take to get the body and dash cams ordered, delivered, and upfitted into the vehicles and onto the deputies? How do you see that timing working out?
So from the point in time that we sign a contract or issue the PO to GTAC to get the product in place, we've got about 100 days till we have to make payment on that product. That's a side note, but that 100 days tells us a time frame in which I want to get somebody hired on and get somebody available to us. I'm thinking that that's going to be an August 1st or September 1st benchmark. I have to work with civil service to get the position tested for, and then we have to background and start moving on it. If it ends up being October or November that we end up hiring, then that's what it is. But I would love to shoot for that August to September benchmark.
So you would sell, just assuming it would be for fourth quarter 2021, it would be a quarter of the 91,000 this year and then 91,000 for the FTE next year?
Yes.
Okay. The other question is just kind of pivoting here from the personnel side to the policy side. What work do you anticipate that you and the SO would have to do in terms of developing policies and procedures to implement this program? I'm sure there's a lot of information out there that you don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel, but does any of that need to be bargained with the deputies or any of that kind of stuff? What would we anticipate from a policy and procedure perspective?
I'm working on policies and procedures now. I've got several other agencies involved, their policies and procedures, and just going through theirs to find the best of this one and that one and try and figure out how we want to put ours together. We are a Lexipol policy-driven agency, and Lexipol has a base standard policy that they issue out for both the car cams and the body cams. As for the guild, we're into negotiations with them. I've already shipped them an email and asked them to step in and step up and start into the policy building project with me. Haven't heard from them on that. So I'm already there working on that. I've adapted the job description on the evidence tech and sent a sample over to civil service to have them take a look at it through Becky Rogers. And yeah, I'm moving along on it. I've got a kind of a major milestones plan that I'm got in place here. Once we get the get-go, yeah, the work starts. It's kind of like hunting. You go out and you go hunt a deer or an elk, and yeah, you might get to shoot it. And after that, the work starts. You have to do all the rest of the hard work, and that's what's coming at me once I get the okay from you folks.
And then the other question that I had, so is, you probably know, for the commissioners, maybe some information for them. So at MACECOM, we're considering, well, we began a transition to Pro Phoenix from Spillman at MACECOM. That's been put on hold, and we're reevaluating that per direction from the MACECOM board. We may continue down the road with Pro Phoenix. We may stick with Spillman and upgrade that current system. From your perspective, I know the Motorola product they own Spillman, and so there's a tie-in there that makes sense. If we were to go with Pro Phoenix and your preferred vendor for the cameras, are there any similar issues there that we should be thinking about that would have an effect on our decisions at MACECOM, or what should we be mindful of?
Both companies, both Motorola and or GTAC, have an ability to use a third-party vendor to do that translation of information that you're talking about, to import information on the call. So it makes it quicker and easier for the deputy when he's uploading information.
Do you have a sense for cost on that? I know the Spillman part was built into the Motorola one, but for the other option, do you know?
I believe that the cost on the GTAC one is already built in to the contract or the quote that I sent.
Okay, great.
And I tried to take those quotes and I tried to get apples to apples
Sure.
as best as I could, because they're all a little different, but yeah.
Great. That's all I have at the moment.
Commissioner Trask?
Yeah, thank you. So truly do appreciate the discussions that we've had with both companies. And I think that a lot of the questions were answered, and They did a great presentation, both of them, I think. And then I was going to ask the question about the different programs, but I think we did ask that also in the one conversation that we had with GTAC, and they did say that the programs would be supported. The Pro Phoenix would be supported as well. The personnel, well, because of the atmosphere that we have now and the items that came out of the legislature this year, I think it's critical that we move forward on this. Because there's going to be a big demand, I think, with all the other departments asking as well. So I guess in a roundabout way, I'm saying that I support this. I guess that's not so roundabout, is it? Point on. I support it, and I think with the direction that we're headed as a county, I think that this is the way to go. We're not gonna get any smaller. We're just gonna continue growing. And so in order to protect our officers, our residents, and our county, I think that this is a good move forward. And I know we talked about the computers in the vehicles too. If we don't need them right now, and you say that that's not necessary, I would support that as well. Do you think further down the road, it might be a good thing to look at?
On the computers,
Right.
our laptops in our cars, we replace them on a cycle. We have a certain amount that get replaced every year because they get worn and broken and what have you. That's just what happens. If I was to replace them all at once, then all of a sudden in 5 years or 6 years, I may end up with coming back to you asking, hey, I need another, $100,000 for laptops because I've got half of them are broken again or whatever. I think we're okay with our computer systems that we've got. We've been doing a pretty good job. We've got a semi-ruggedized product right now that we're using. We seem to like it. It seems to work for us. The problem with just switching out on computers right now is that it's not just the computer. There's a lot of hardware that goes on the back side of it, which costs more and more. That's why basically trying to outfit these cars runs anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 to outfit a car with a laptop. And I know people are turn around and say, well, I can pick one up for $600. Well, yeah, you can pick a laptop up for $600, but there's a whole bunch of stuff behind it that we have to do to it to make it work. But I do appreciate the commission asking about that. That wasn't the need when I started this, and I still don't believe we're at the need stage for the laptops. That'd be a wish list item, but not a need. And I think that the cameras are the need.
So your current laptops, they're already in the budget, correct? For replacement as needed.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. I don't know, their systems were amazing. And I'm glad that you decided that you didn't need the 360 and some of the other toys. And obviously they're not toys, they're just added security items. But if not needed, I think we're headed in the right direction. And I think one thing that I really appreciated about them explaining too was how it's not, so it's on the officer, but it's not in their way. So if they're moving toward another part of their equipment, the cameras are not in the way. So I appreciated that. They were very informative. It was kind of fun having a little bit of knowledge, from my husband being an officer and understanding the needs and the different things that they use, items that they use, like the MDT. It was fun. So
good.
Thanks.
Glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for supporting it.
So Chief, I'm supportive as well. I would like us to at least consider an idea or the concept of splitting the baby a little bit when it comes to technology coming in. We have those new cars that are coming in with on the lease, and maybe consider, as you and I had discussed, bringing in the new type of keyboard access and stuff into the new vehicles as they come in. To maybe help out. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm just saying maybe we can consider that. especially if we're going to do the expenditures, one-time expenditures versus bow wave. The one-time expenditure on this one, I think we're going to be having discussions on monies that are coming in. And this is going to be one of our top priorities, I'm sure. As for the bow wave, I see, so this will be an evidence tech person that comes in.
That's my intent.
Okay. So there's no way though, do you have extra work in the evidence facility? Is there any way to bring in somebody that would be cross modality to be able to do other things as well, especially during the beginning?
So this person is going to be busy, whether it's in the beginning or throughout the project, because they will be doing a lot of public disclosure work, working with records, maintaining the evidence, the digital evidence system itself, and then working with GTAC in getting any repairs needed or other issues that creep up in that area. And yes, this person will be cross-trained into the evidence system. The evidence officer that's there now will be cross-trained onto this, so that when the person takes a vacation or is sick or something happens, we've at least got somebody to backfill that spot for a short time. So we're trying to build some redundancy into the program, and at least I am in the way I want to put it together.
No, that makes perfect sense. Is there any economy of scale by doing some of the computer work? And I'm not talking about the full laptop replacement, but the ones on the vehicles that are coming in. Is there any economy of scale of doing it at the same time? That's one of the questions that I asked them, but I don't know that we ever got an answer. And maybe they never sent it to you.
Maybe I'm not understanding what you're asking by economy of scale.
Savings by doing one thing while they're putting in the one system, be able to put in the additional connection for the keyboards inside the car and stuff at the same time. They were talking about maybe giving a discount if we were to bring something like that in, and I don't know if there'd be a discount for also the upfit.
Was that when you were inside the car talking to him, Jay?
It could have been. You were in the back seat, but
I know I'd stepped out for a while because I'd seen the program and I know he's showing it to you.
Yeah, and that could have been.
Absolutely. We've got 10 of them that are in 10 vehicles right now that are up at SPS getting built this week and next week. Clearly, we're not going to get the product into those in the next 2 weeks. That's, even if you gave me a credit card and said, go buy it now, it's not coming. No. But I've been in conversations with the upfitter, SPS, and they are pre-wiring everything on the new vehicles so that we don't have to tear stuff apart and try and put stuff back into it. All the new ones. Now, I've got, you guys had signed off on, I think it's 14 or 15 cars for 2022 that should be getting delivered October, November, December-ish to the upfitter. I'm hoping that we have the product in hand. I can take them up to them. They can install it from the ground up into the systems like they're installing everything right now. So yeah, I've got a retrofit project that I would have to do on the current cars. I don't want to get the oldest ones, but some of the cars that are going to be around for a year or two. Clearly, we want to retrofit those with the equipment so that our accountability is there to the public, so that they can see us using the equipment that you guys have authorized, that they can see what we do for a living and that we're doing it the right way.
Okay. So, Commissioners, do you see the next step is further discussions as we're talking about the monies that are coming forward, along with having our HR talking with the unions regarding how this will be structured to come in, and then coming back together, or are you looking for an action today? And right now, that question is for the commissioners.
So well, two things. One, Chief, I'd like you to walk us through the leasing document that's included in the packet, and the second, the second part is. Just I think having a conversation about the budgeting, but understanding too, the kind of putting this in context, and this might be an undersheriff question more than anything, is, this is a big addition of a program heading into, starting this year, but heading into next year. How does this fall priority wise relative to other asks that you might have into the fall beginning for 2022? So those are the other two questions that I have.
So you wanted the leasing document, the Huntington?
Yeah.
Basically, it's a company that works with GTAC that's willing to basically put us on a leasing program with them. At the end of it, we own the product, but it's a certain percentage above. I don't know what the interest rate is. I don't remember it.
Yeah, so I think it would be really helpful to get some information on that and what it looks like if just put that up against what it would be if we bought it outright. Obviously the FTE issues is, something we, is separate from this. This is just the hardware and software. But understanding what it would look like if we just did it in a lump sum up front versus, financing it over the next 5 years.
So the lump sum I can give you, I have that document in, what's the quote number? Quote number 70 on that. And that's $704,000 for the product. That same quote, if we were to lease it, is what, $12,614 a month, or yeah, a month. And annual rental on that comes out to $149,200 a year. So whatever that is times 5. I don't have my calculator with me.
Okay, how much were you saying a month again? I'm sorry, 12.
So if on the
it adds about $42,000 to finance it over 5 years.
Okay.
Is there any benefit to having that finance? Are they replacing anything during the lease period? Are they replacing anything that breaks, or is it just a straight difference of a loan?
It's just a loan because all the warranty and such is in the purchase price.
Good catch, Commissioner Schutte. That makes a big difference. That's a big number, 40 grand.
So just something to think about. I mean, a lot of this is predicated on, utilizing some of the federal money to recover lost revenue and fees and clearing cap room essentially within the budget, to be able to make this work on the hardware and software side. So I think that's just something we'd want to be mindful of there. It's a big upfront saving or investment, but, spending it out over a number of years. When you get to the second wave of these in 5 years, when it's time to evaluate and renew, it might make sense at that point to go the, annual installment route. But right now the opportunity exists solely because we're getting some federal money and we're able to make up some ground on our budget to be able to make this happen. So I think that's just something that we need to think about. And the obvious next step in my mind is having that conversation with Frank and Jennifer, about how we can do this the easiest and most cost-effective way and still get at what you want to do with the program. So that's on that. And if we want to move to the priorities conversation, we can do that. I don't know if
Under Sheriff
and Trask have any other thoughts on the lease.
Yes, sir.
Comments on the priority on the FTE and how that affects us for the into the future is what Commissioner Schutte was asking.
Future requests.
Right. Well, I mean, right now the priority has obviously been changed a little bit given the events of the last year and the direction that we need to go right now. I think for county liability purposes and for protecting our deputies in the office, cameras and body cams and in-car cams are very important. But clearly there's no program there without the person to maintain all the data and do the public disclosure. So that's kind of where I see us going.
Yeah, so I guess maybe my question a little bit more concise is what else might we expect to hear from the sheriff's office is being asked for in the 2022 budget, and how does this rank against that? I mean, do you really see this as being your top ask heading into 2022? Are there other things that we need to be thinking about and weighing this against.
Well, of course not. This is our top ask for 2021 now. There will be all new asks in 2022, right? Isn't that how it works? No, yeah, obviously. No, I mean, we came to you last year and this year and talked to you about our 3-year goals. And obviously within our 3-year goals, we had other positions that we had talked about, whether it was an employee to staff the substation up in Belfair. We all know that Belfair is growing by leaps and bounds, and our ability to maintain that office through volunteers has been decreasing in recent years. So clearly that's something that's important to us. And obviously, as we'll be having conversations about the jail and staffing there, which is always a challenge. But those conversations we've had before, those needs will not change. However, I think right now the top priority is liability management for the county, as well as having that transparency that the public has been clamoring for over the last year. And so I think that's our priority at this point. Doesn't mean that we won't come forward and talk about those staffing issues for the north end and other things next year, but the county's growing and we're going to have to consider those things regardless.
Great. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Frank, I saw that you turned your camera on. Is there something you wanted to add to that earlier discussion?
I did, and that was in a question I had. Was that 40,000 over the 5 years of the contract, or was that 40,000 a year for the interest cost?
If you calculated it, what Kevin did, that calculated the total cost, didn't it, Kevin? Or Commissioner Schutte?
Yeah, so basically if we did a lump sum was, hang on, I'm getting back to the document here. Lump sum was like 703,000, but if you took the annual rental cost and times that by 5, it came out to be about $42,000 or $43,000 more over the life of the financing.
So the cost there is on an annual basis pretty low, a percentage point or two. As an alternative, the county could look at the Washington State Treasurer's local program. If you remember, we used that to purchase the telephones, and that generally runs a percent up to maybe 1.75% a year in interest charges as well. So there's a couple of options that we can go to help with the purchase price of those cameras.
Commissioner Trask, did you have anything more you wanted to ask or discuss?
Yeah, as far as the price goes, I think with the monies that we're getting from the federal government, I think that this is one of the items that is covered in that. We should have the guidelines from the Treasury by the 6th. But I do believe that when we talked to NACO, that was one of the things that they said that it would absolutely be supported. So I would, instead of paying the 40,000 or 40,000 plus over the 5 years, I think purchasing it outright would be the smartest thing to do.
40,000 plus pays for some of our positions in the county, half of a position for a year.
Right. Half of the new person for this records management.
Yeah. So right now, where I think I'm hearing we're at, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. We're going to go out. We're going to make sure we talk with the unions. We're going to have further discussions later on today about our finances and how we're going to do it. And then we'll come back with priorities on if we're going to do this and how it will be paid for specifically at that time. And we just take what we have right now and move on to the next phase of our discussions of how to get there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Commissioner, can I ask one more question real quick?
Please do.
And I don't know the answer. Jason will probably be able to answer it, but I know that the lease program has replacements built into it. It has brand new cameras built in, I think at the 2.5-year mark and at the end of the 5 years. If we purchase those outright, are we then not getting that automatic replacement of the newest technology coming up in future years?
No, all the programs the outright purchase will cover us on 2 rotations of new body cameras, one at the 25-month mark and then one at the end of the contract. So as we end our 5-year commitment to them, we get brand new body cameras, which should last us another 2 years. But we'll probably have to look at that point in time of entering into another contract on the unlimited storage for the evidence system, and then any maintenance contracts that we want to do on the hardware.
Okay, I didn't know if there was a distinction between an outright purchase or the lease there. Thank you.
No, the leasing is just literally, they're a loan program. They're offering some sort of loan for us. That's it.
Okay, so commissioners?
Yeah, I'll just say I think that's the right next steps. Certainly supportive. I think you guys have done a lot of work on this, and I put a lot of thought into this program over the past year, and so I really appreciate that. I think it's just a matter of figuring out the dollars and cents of it, and sort of going from there and just sort of managing the logistics side of it. So I think you're well on your way.
Commissioner Trask?
Steps forward have been clearly defined. I think Commissioner Netherland, you were spot on the direction. And so look forward to our next discussion.
I don't want to
myself. Go ahead, Kevin.
I was gonna say I don't at the risk of channeling Commissioner Netherland too much. If we pay up front, is there any chance that they could do a little bit better on that cost? I mean, is that, I'm sure there's a benefit to the company of getting a big check now versus dragging it out over 5 years.
I can always make an ask.
If you don't ask, the answer is no. So please do ask. So again, I thank you guys for coming. It looks like we are supportive and moving forward. We're going to figure out the next phases and make the final decisions as we go through the process. Did you have any last questions for us, Under Sheriff or Chief?
Time frame on what you're looking at on your end of it?
Probably won't know that until we have our next discussions, but I would think it's pretty soon. I heard you loud and clear that you would like to be able to have everything in place if we do this, to have everything in place ready to go when we get those next cars that are coming through. You don't want to have to deal with that again. You want it all right there, and it makes perfect sense. We want them all put in at the same time if we can get them.
Okay, and just keeping in mind that once we sign a contract with them, I've got like an 8-week period in which the product shows up. And then I've got a time frame by which I have to put the product in place and together, installed, and what have you. So there's a time frame issue. So I hate trying to push you on this, but
no, that's all right. How much lead time? Or maybe you can send it to us in an email. Just break down the lead time that you have to have. We'll try to get you, if we do this. I keep speaking too early here. If we do this, we'll try and get you way ahead of that, but it'd be nice to know exactly what that is, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us.
Roger that. I'll do that on an email.
Thank you. Anything further on this, commissioners? Anything further from the Sheriff's Department?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, have a great day. Great job, Chief Drackenby.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Next up, Frank Pinter with Support Services.
Thank you, Commissioners. And just to follow up on that previous briefing and to give the board a timeline, we have guidance coming from the U.S. Treasury in regards to the ARPA money coming, as Commissioner Trask mentioned, May 6th. So I hope to have a briefing next Monday, a follow-up briefing to the ARPA money distribution and allocation desires of the board, so that we can have this added, or actually it's already on there, excuse me, with the dollar amount, and then talk about priorities as to what is the priority of the board. As far as dollars are concerned, the expectation is that the first tranche, 50% of the funding coming through ARPA will come in sometime in June, and the balance will come about at the end of the year from the first payment. So again, some timeline. First item on our list is Prothman's recruitment services. And I believe I have an individual or two from Prothman to discuss their contract and answer any questions that the board may have of them.
If you're on, would you please unmute yourself and announce your name? Is there anybody from Prothman? I also don't have any hands up, so that they can't get through. Frank, do you recognize?
There I am.
There
Oh,
we go. All right. So your conference room, I've been wondering who that was. Okay.
yeah, I guess I didn't know this. I don't do these too often, so.
That's okay. Could you please introduce yourself?
I'm Sonia Prothman, representing the Prothman Company.
Welcome.
Hello.
Frank, is there specific you'd like her to talk, or how would you like this to be handled, Frank?
Well, we have a contract that we put forward onto our briefing docket this morning that the board, I hope, has had a chance to review. Are there any questions for Prothman and Associates? And
Mr. Schutte?
I was just going to say, maybe if we can have Sonia just walk through the contract and hit the highlights for us and hear a little bit of the work associated with some of those elements, I'd be very interested in that.
I would as well. Are you comfortable with that?
Sure.
Please.
Okay. So if you choose to hire us for this recruitment, which eventually I want to get into a discussion about the title of the position, because there may be some issues on that. But first off, what we do is we come on site or we meet with Zoom with all the commissioners. We look at what you're looking for. You know, we have individual meetings. We spend a lot of time because we want to know about fit, right? You know, the skills for these positions we're pretty good at because we do a lot of these. But the big thing is you don't want someone to come in that doesn't fit and then leaves in a year, and turnover like that is not good. So we'll come up at first and we'll interview the commissioners, we'll interview staff, we'll, you know, counties usually don't get community involved, so we don't. Smaller cities like to do that. But so, you know, what you're looking for, personality, expertise, any big projects coming up. So we'll spend a day or however long it takes to work with you to get a really good idea of what you're looking for. And then we put a position profile together. It comes through you for final edits, final approval. Then we post it on our website. We place advertisings on your behalf. We do a direct mail to every county administrator. Well, again, we need to talk about the position title and what this position is, but typically for the position, it would be, you know, if it's a public works director or something, or a county administrator, we would send it to every county, probably in 14, 15 states, put a direct mail piece, a job announcement right on their desks. We have emails, we have ICMA, we have all kinds of emails that we follow up with emails for the job announcements. So we do pretty outstanding outreach. We bring all the applications in, we review them based on our interviews with you, what you're looking for. We do first round of interviews. We come back to you at that point with books that have all the application materials. We do Google backgrounds before we interview them to make sure there's nothing in their closets, or if there is, we can discuss it with them and then discuss it with you. We bring all that information with you. We have a meeting with you to go over all of that and help you decide who you want to bring in for final interviews. And then at that point, we facilitate, we manage the final interviews, we manage the travel of the candidates. And in our meeting with you, the work session, we'll go over all of that information of designing the final interviews. Do you want panels? Do you just want to meet the three of you? How you want those laid out, we'll work with you on that. And then we handle everything from, we do background checks, we work with the candidates on the travel that you've agreed to pay for in our meeting. We have a checklist that we'll get that information from you. Do you want to have a reception? There's all kinds of options coming into a final interview that we'll work with you. And then we handle all that. And then we come on site, hopefully by then, and we facilitate the final interviews for you and with you, and help you come to a decision of a hiring decision. That's pretty much what we do.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions?
Yeah, I guess I really appreciate that. Just curious as to, you know, what your sense of the current market is right now, for, you know, public sector executive leadership positions, and what we should be considering in terms of, you know, making the county competitive and things like that.
Well, baby boomers are not looking for their next job. They're not all retiring yet, but they're not applying. So applications are down across the board in all public sector, what we're seeing. And so salary is going to be salary now is going to become part of getting the applicants. What we're seeing in like administration ends is back from the recession, everybody got rid of their deputies. So we're pretty slim. We're not seeing that natural progression of deputies taking smaller counties and smaller city jobs because they're just not there. A lot of them were let go during the recession, and a lot of cities and counties have not brought deputies back in. So the pools are shrinking, and so salaries becoming a bigger, you know, it's becoming like one of the most important things. So that's something to think about. For your position, having this position as a director level, I believe it's 3 directors you have, and they're all even. It's going to be tough to get you an administrative type person with an experienced, with the amount of years of experience I believe Mason County needs from the complexity of your county. You've got a lot going on there. It's going to be tough to get someone to go with a county administrator, county manager title and bring them down to a support services director and put them on a director level. So that's going to be something to think about and talk about prior to moving forward.
Thank you.
So Sonia, in your opinion, I know you're also looking for an MTA Mason Transit.
Yes.
They're also working on that one. In your opinion, you mentioned the title or the title of the job description or the position. What have you seen across other states and counties? How is that title description compared to ours? How do they?
I've never seen, well, and you're kind of teetering on it. It's a department director, and you've per your I totally can't think of the word, and it's sitting on here. Yeah.
I get that all the time.
Oh my goodness, that's just really bad. You know, your outline of community service and who works for who.
Right.
It's an org chart.
The org chart, thank you. Oh my gosh. There's a lot under the support services. You've got public works. Honestly, I've never, you know, I've been doing this for 13 years, and I was a city council member for the city of Normandy Park prior to that. I've never seen this. That doesn't mean that it's not there, but I've never seen where it's separated into 3 department levels like this. Typically what you find when you have public works out there by itself or community development, you get a very siloed workings of your government. And so you'll find that, you know, public works has their own budget and their own director, and nobody's overseeing them. I know commission's overseeing them, but on a daily basis, you get them buying their own software, you get some other department buying their own software, and nobody's software is talking to each other's software. Your financials don't talk, so that makes budgeting very hard. There's all kinds of things that happen when you get these silos. So it could be working fine for you. I don't know that it's not. It's just it's an interesting layout, and there's a lot under the support services. So it'd be difficult to get, I think, a very experienced county manager administrator into this position with the layout you have. And not saying that it can't be done, but there might be some work up front to help define it and see what your goals are going forward. What, you know, we would have to look at what goals you guys have set for the county, what your strategies are coming up, and how this position aligns with that. That would maybe help in discussing where you want to go with this position.
That's just kind of funny because the things you were talking about are some of the issues that we're having, you know, different departments having different systems and trying to get them onto the same financial system that that we use at the county. But
Yes.
it is kind of siloed. So it's just kind of funny that you say that.
Yeah. We went into Bremerton, I think 12 years ago now, and we did a full city evaluation, and they were very siloed too. And Mayor Patty, I believe, was very, you know, it was a lot of, you know, silos. Once they have their silos, they don't like to lose their power. So but our report came back exactly what I'm telling you, that, you know, with the silos, again, Bremerton, they had all different financials. Everybody had their own payroll, all using different software. And, you know, so budget time was impossible because none of the systems talked to each other. So budget was always late. Budget was always off a little bit. It was just, you know, so they brought themselves in, and Patty got a finance director. So she added a bunch of positions that have helped them in a lot. And now Patty didn't get elected, so they could be going somewhere else now, I don't know, but it was a big project. So that's just something to think about. I mean, you want somebody that, you know, it's a profession. City county government is a profession. Most of them now have MPAs. Most of them have worked themselves up. In a county your size, and you know, you guys are complex, because I have a house on Lake Limerick. So I spend a lot of time, but my brother has a house on Lake Limerick, my sister does, and my other brother does. So we've been coming out there for 20 years. And so I know Mason County very well, and I know the complexity of the services you provide with the lack of funding you have. So I think you guys would be would be a little more successful if you had a really good, experienced county manager that can come in and facilitate you and help you. Number one, you know, maybe up front, have these discussions in some work sessions and plan out where exactly do you want to go with this position. Is it the right, you know, time to put a county manager in place and go back to the director levels, get a finance director that's in charge of all the finance of the whole county, and then all the systems and everything under one, and update, you know, bring it all into one spot. So it's a discussion to have probably in a work session.
I appreciate your insight.
Sonia, I really appreciate that. I want to ask maybe a question that might appear to be a setback for the commission, but I appreciate your expertise on it. So obviously it is essentially with a few somewhat significant changes to the job description, essentially, you know, kind of the support services director position that you referenced with a different title. In terms of being competitive, we did have some conversations about, you know, having it be more of a traditional county manager role, county administrator role. It was we didn't come to a consensus on that, and so sort of split the difference, if you will, and titled it county manager and left a lot of the sort of organizational structure intact. In your sort of experience and opinion, you know, is it more, should we just have remained with the title support services director and roll the dice that way, or like what are your thoughts on ripping the Band-Aid off and really reshuffling the organizational structure to make it more comparable with what is happening in our state?
Yeah, I think if you're going to leave it as a county, if you're going to change the title to a county manager and leave it as a department director with two other on the same level of these two other, you're not going to get qualified candidates to what the experience that you probably are hoping for. Because I don't see anybody going from a true county manager, county administrator position going backwards to become a department director again. And what happens is, you know, that's a lot budget. human resources, facility. There's a lot under that position, yet the pay is comparable to the other two. There's all kinds of things to discuss that go into the position title and the pay and where it sits. So I think if you're not going to make it a county administrator manager and then put public works and everybody else underneath that position, so it goes straight line from commission to the county administrator and then down. And I think if you're not going to do that, you should leave it probably as a support services director or as something in that sense as a title.
So one of the things that we kind of kept coming up against in our conversations about, how to title this and how to, sort of design the position, is that this person, this role would then become a fourth commissioner, and that there would be an issue with the commission providing oversight for that role, for that employee, and then kind of being rogue in some sense. How do you manage that? I mean, what are you seeing in other places? How are organizations structured to combat that? And if we did go in that direction, what do you think we could do to position ourselves so that we can alleviate that concern, but still have a position that improves our efficiency?
Right. Well, number one, as I said, county management's a profession, and they have, county managers and administrators that have been doing this for a while, which again, I'm going to say that because you need a pretty good experience level coming in. So they're going to be experienced. They don't want to be in the legislative side. They don't want to be a fourth commissioner. They don't have their own agendas. And so what they're going to want from you, and they're going to probably, the first 2 months on the job, they're going to say, okay, commissioners, we're going to sit down and have however many workshops we need to have to get whatever your priorities, your strategies, all of your stuff documented, which then is there. And what your number one priority, you want to put sidewalks in Lake Limerick. We would love sidewalks in Lake Limerick. If that becomes your number one priority, then that becomes your county administrator's number one priority and staff's number one priority. So that's where it all begins. And that's how, and then your weekly or monthly meetings with your county administrator then are going over the priorities. Where are we at on this one? Where are we at on the new police department building? What, if you're building a new jet, whatever your priorities are and whatever things you have going on, it's tracked and you're updating it on your weekly meetings. And so that's how you keep your county administrator on track, but it's not their agenda. They're there to support your agenda and your politics and your visions, because that's why you're commissioners, is to provide vision and strategy for the county. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that insight.
So we even see where lately city managers are being asked to do economic development, and that gets a little bit into the legislative because now they're a little more in the limelight, working with developers and stuff. And so you don't even want to mix that little bit with your city manager or your county manager, because they're there to support the council's visions and provide the services to the residents. That's their job, and to support whoever their board or commission or council is. And so, you don't even want your main administrator out even doing economic development.
So my 2 cents on that one, just so you know, I know Patty very well, and one of the differences between the county and Patty is Patty was an executive. As a mayor, she was an executive. Not some mayors do not have the authorities she did.
Yes.
And so having somebody underneath her was literally like having her assistant to do that, which is a different situation what we're dealing with here by a long shot. And although those things sound all good in practice, in reality, I found it to be quite different. So just know that as we're going forward.
And how long ago was that?
Which part?
Where you said you found it to be different. I was assuming you were talking about when you had the county manager, or you're talking Patty.
Right now, no, I'm not talking about Patty. Patty's was fine, but that's because she was the executive over it, and that was her job.
exactly.
Where I see with others, even our surrounding cities and stuff, I do not find it to be that way. And eventually, George Washingtons are hard to come by. Eventually, when they're the ones that have to answer to everything for everything, people start going through them. And that's how it has to work in order to get access. And we used to have that here in Mason County. That's how we ended up going backwards. But now when we went backwards, we went completely the other way. And we had 9, was it 9 or, yeah, it was 9 directors at one point. Wasn't it? Is that correct, Frank?
I thought I was 11, but
I heard it. We were up to 13 at one point, but I think when we cut everybody down, we had already got whittled it down to 9 because we had directors everywhere. You couldn't throw a rock and not hit a director when I first got here. So that's how we ended up going down to the 3 during some of the big changes and stuff. So I just wanted you to know my 2 cents as well on that.
And was that 10 years ago when that was change take place?
Yeah, I think it was. I think they were up to 13, about 10. Then we dropped down about 7 years ago. Does that sound about accurate, Frank?
Yeah, that's correct.
Well, yeah.
And I didn't need an answer or nothing. I just was letting you know.
Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. You know, and you know, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. Well, I might. No, I won't. But I do think, you know, over the last 20 years, city county management has really evolved also. And, you know, open meetings, you know, it truly is a profession. And I would just caution you not to take a bad experience from 10 years ago or the last person you called as the 4th commissioner, that he had his own, she had their own agenda. That's not typically what we see in today's city county management. So just keep that in mind. And you know, you guys are up there out of, I've got you at there's 39 counties and you're right in the middle at 66,000. So you know, you're up there in almost every county above you, all but 1, 2, 3, 4, all but 4 out of the 20 above you have county administrators. So, and then as it gets below you, it's not as many, but so you're kind of right in that. It really depends on the commission and what your goals and priorities and how you want to move forward. And that may be getting a consultant. You know, there's different consultants and different products out there that you know will be like work sessions with commissioners that can help you get all, if you haven't done it, get your priorities and get your ideas on paper and facilitate those kind of things for you.
So for time wise, we still have the whole rest of his to go. Are there any other questions that we have?
I would say, what are the next steps?
Would be to put this on the agenda, correct, Frank?
That's correct. We have to put this on next Tuesday's agenda to accept the contract and then to start working on the work sessions to develop the product.
So I'm supportive of that. Just Sonia, not saying that this is going to happen, but in the realm of possibilities, if we were to decide that we wanted to make changes to what we were offering this position as, how would we go about that with you? I mean, would it require a complete renegotiation of the contract, or what kind of flexibility is there if we see that we're not getting anything and want to reassess where we're headed?
Meaning if we try to advertise for this position and then we don't get anything, or meaning if we do some work up front and you decide to change it?
How about both?
Up front, I think it might, you know, depending on the complexity of it. If it's something that, you know, within an hour or so conversation, we can have with you and make, you know, these are pretty big changes, so that's probably not going to happen like that. You may want to have, you know, either us or somebody else come in on a work session, which would be a small consulting contract probably, to really sit with you and give you the good, the bad, you know, what all this entails of changing this and changing this down. There's times where we'll bring in a very experienced county administrator in on it as an interim basis to come in and help you. You know, they're either go on our payroll or your payroll for 6 months if you decide you want to do these changes, because a lot of times you don't want to hire a new county administrator, bring them in and have them have to change, you know, do all the bad and ugly work, because there's going to be people who, you know, if your public works director is a director and he's going to get positioned different, there may be hurt feelings, there may be changes, you know, so sometimes you want someone to come in as an interim to do a lot of that changes, and then they take all the baggage with them, and then you do the recruitment. So that's an option that we use. If we go for support services and we, as is, and we do all the recruiting, you know, again, we may get really great candidates, and you might be someone who's really happy for that particular role. That's a big possibility too. And then if we don't get the candidate level you're looking for, then switching it over, again, we'd have to go through some of the process I just talked about up front, because it's a big change. And so if you're going to switch it over halfway through, we would have to probably go back and then probably put you on a consulting contract to do all that upfront work, or bring you in an interim to help you facilitate that change. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. How long of a process is that to do up front? Just out of curiosity.
You know, it just depends on your availability, and it can be done in probably 2 or 3 work sessions. You know, what the consultant would do would come in and talk to you guys individually and probably as a group, see where, you know, and facilitate maybe a 2 or 3 hour work session. And you may already have done this, and you may already have all your priorities lined out and all your strategies and your visions. You may already have that. There are some companies that just do that. They just do work sessions with boards and commissions and help you do that. They're kind of fun. We did that when I was on city council. You spend a weekend with somebody and they help you all. They facilitate you to all agree or not just, or to disagree, but you get a pretty good outcome of where you want the county to go. So that's something to think about if you haven't done that. So you asked me the timeline, or what did you?
Yeah, just, I mean, so a couple of meetings over a few weeks or whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty quick. It can be pretty quick.
Gotcha.
It's basically how, you know, what your guys is that if you've done any pre-work on your priorities and those kind of things of you know, where you start to where you end.
Yeah.
But it's not a huge, oh my gosh, it's going to take 6 months to get this penciled out.
Yeah. Just speaking for myself, I'd be really interested in considering a process like that. This is, I think, a real crossroads for the county, and I know there's a lot of hesitation, but I think it might be worthwhile considering going through a more formal process of ruling things in or out.
It might be worth you know, putting the recruitment on hold and having this discussion a little bit more about where, you know, you guys having this, you know, where do you want to go with this position, and what are your priorities, and it'll be pretty evident when you do your strategies, priorities, vision, and you may, I don't know, the consultant and the people that have been in the county government for a long time will be able to go, you know, yes, you can get away without this position, or, you know, you really need to, if this is really what you guys want to do, and this is aggressive, or this is great, you're going to need a county administrator to do this. So I think you guys are big enough at this point, and you're pretty complex. I'm a fan of the county administrator, city manager form of government. Almost all cities have that, except for when they have elected mayors, and most of elected mayors now have city administrators that handle all the staff stuff. So, and you know, even cities the size of 2000s have city managers. So the you know, it goes the city council, city manager, and then everybody. So it's a very common form of managing counties and cities. Not so much counties, I think, because the commissioners are elected, and the counties are so complex. Commissioners from counties tend to want to have their fingers in the business a little bit more. So like I said, the 20 counties above you almost all have county administrators, and down below there's maybe 6 that have them. So, you know, as the counties get smaller, they tend to hold on to the older form of government. I call it the older form of government, but
Sounds to me like we need to have a work session, and probably quicker or sooner than later. We have a pretty, August is approaching quickly.
yes. And the recruitment takes about 3 months to do a recruitment. You know, by the time we come in and have stakeholders, we get the profile. You want to have your recruitment window open at least 5 to 6 weeks, because, you know, everything has different deadlines. When the ads go out, the direct mail has to get processed and go out. We follow up with emails. You know, you don't want to have a 2-week time. You want a 5 or 6 week recruitment window. We spend 2 weeks to review all of that, schedule the interviews, do the interviews. Then after those 2 weeks, we'll come back and have the work session with you. And then it takes 2 to 3 weeks to schedule the final interviews, because you've got background checks, you've got, you know, participation, what rooms are we going to be in, what, you know, there's so many aspects to a final interview, candidate travel, all those kind of things. So you're looking at about 3 months from start to finish. And then at a county level, you know, at even department director level positions, you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks from the time you make the decision till they start. Because a lot of them have projects, or they're working and they have to close up things, move. So you're looking at another two months before they're going to be on site starting.
So best case scenario, even under our current timeline, you know, we would be looking at having to consider an interim.
Potentially, because yeah, we're May. Yeah, May, you know, if we started, well, you know, and you're not going to sign the contract today. So if we started whenever your meeting is, and, you know, say in 2 weeks, near the middle of May, middle June, July, August, till you have your final interviews now.
Well, I want to make sure that we do it right.
I think so. I'd like to, you know, like I said, I have a house in Mason County, so I'm a little personally involved here.
You have a little skin in the game.
I do have a little skin in the game.
And your siblings too, so.
Yeah, exactly.
So have we agreed to put this on the agenda for next week?
Yeah.
Was there any interest in can we do that concurrently? Is there any interest in having a conversation around the other topics that we discussed today, or is that just a non-starter for the commission?
If the board would like, Sonia and I can work on a work session or a consultation schedule, as well as a proposal, and bring that forward next Monday to discuss and possibly review and approve for the following Tuesday.
Are you comfortable with that, Commissioner Schutte?
Yeah, I'd be very comfortable with that. I'd like to, like I said, at least be able to rule things in or out.
Commissioner Trask?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the smartest move forward.
Okay, so that's what we will do. Thank you very much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
now, Frank, we're way behind here. Can you do the rest of your briefing in short form when possible?
Yes.
When possible.
So let's move on then to the annexation petition. Diane, if you would.
Yes, good morning. I think Patty's on here too, because Fire 16, the board took action back in February to sign a resolution based on a petition for Fire 16 to annex in a couple parcels, but their election failed. So they need to do it again. And this morning we've been going back and forth with Tim Whitehead and then Chief Welander. And it looks like a petition will be forthcoming, and we're not going to be able to make the August deadline for the election. So it'll be for November. But I wanted to make sure the board's good. If we get what we need, which would be the petition and then the certification from the auditor's office on May 11th, I'll hopefully have everything so I can set a hearing so we can do this process again.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
It was a 1-0 vote, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, two voters. And the petition has been resubmitted this morning and is sufficient. The one signature did check.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, and then it's time again, we need to sign or adopt a resolution declaring our official newspaper, which the only qualifying newspaper is the Journal here in town. So is the board good with that resolution on the May 11th?
I am.
Okay, next.
Reappointment of the lodging tax members. All of them have said they'll serve again, so I'm asking for a 2-year appointment.
Yes, please.
Good with me.
Okay.
Okay, and then support services looked at 3 different vendors for countywide software to manage our public records. And we're recommending we purchase the GovQA, which is what the sheriff's office currently uses. It would be, this year we'd be prorated, so it'd be about another $7,600 over what the sheriff is paying. And then for 2022, about $15,000, and that would allow all county offices to have access to this software. It would help us manage for our JLARC report, which is quite cumbersome to collect all the data. So this makes it much easier. But I think with the amount of public records we're all starting to get in the complexity, we're recommending we go to a countywide software.
I support this.
A great idea.
Okay.
And then on the 11th, I plan to have the oath of inventory. It's for the equipment that has a purchase price of $5,000 or more. It's an annual requirement.
And I have to sign that this year. There's words I like. We'll talk later about that, but I have no issue. Commissioners, do you have any issue with this?
Nope.
I think what we put in the past, but now we have an actual inventory list. Before we didn't used to, and we had to put something in there that stated to the best of our knowledge or something like that, because signing it was not something I could do without the actual knowledge.
Right. In the past, I've always inventoried the equipment, and now I include the asset that I get. I get an asset list from Leo, and that's all included.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's my stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Diane.
The next item is a reclass request from the auditor's office. So the auditor has requested a reclassification of a financial analyst to create a new position called a senior financial analyst. And this individual would be responsible for managing the other financial analysts within the auditor's office, as well as being a support and backup for the chief financial officer. It's a new position entirely, and it meets the qualifications and the requirements for a reclassification request.
This is what we've been talking about for quite a while for a succession plan.
Correct.
Yeah, and I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. We've worked on this for quite a while to try and make this happen. I personally am very supportive and think it's necessary for the county.
So this would require a budget amendment?
That is correct. It's a roughly 10% salary increase. That's a straight salary budget supplement. There isn't obviously any additional benefits or health insurance requirement included.
But there's no hurry for that because they have it within their budget now. They could do it during regular budget.
Right. It's not something that has a budget supplement requirement within this quarter. We could do it at the end of the year.
Okay.
So supportive because we've been talking about this for a while, but I do think we need to also consider the other requests that are out there. You know, we're moving potentially this on, and there are other reclass and reorg conversations happening. And my preference would be, since you know, I think my preference would be just holding off on this until we have some clarity on the other reclasses that are out there and potentially coming in front of us, and do them all as a package. You know, one of the issues that we've had come up against us a number of times is sort of the piecemeal effort that we put into reclasses and how we manage those. And so I just want to encourage the commission to, consider all of them that are going to be in front of us and do them as one package, as opposed to continuing down the piecemeal route.
That to me, that makes sense, because there are so many things that come before us, and if their year has 12 months and if we get one a month or two a week or whatever, it's easier for me to look at the budget as a whole and make that comparison. So I think that's a great idea, Commissioner.
So I'd like to, I think my request is I would like to see wrap up the positions that we're considering in support services. I think there's one potentially in the next couple of weeks coming from the assessor's office, and this one, and it's not to pit one against the other or have any kind of, issues between departments on that. In that sense, it's merely just to make sure that we get as many of these done at the same time as we can, so that we can have some clarity going forward.
I would agree also, except for I would like to ask that we do it all at a very rapid pace, as some of these things are time.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. So I guess the reason I'm saying that is because we've sort of been lagging on some of the other ones, and I want to be able to put a deadline to it so that we can move forward and get all of these done a little bit more timely than we have. Let's get them all in front of us with ranges and steps and everything put to it, and make some decisions together in a more timely manner than we have.
And I could reach out to public defenders and the prosecutor's office in regards to the staffing requirements they have as well, based on the Blake decisions that impacts them directly.
Right. I think we also have building and planning, and so I've heard rumors of quite a few, so it would be nice to get them all in front of us. I think that this would also help the commissioners come up with a priority list where we see where's the biggest need.
I will
on that.
I will put an email out to all of the other directors and electeds requesting that they submit what they feel is necessary for 2021.
I just ask again that we could do this as quick as possible. I know that this, in my opinion, this position is an absolute necessity, as is another one that's coming up, and I'll explain why when we're discussing it. But I'd hate for us trying to be perfect that we screw up so much in trying to be good. So
I actually think that it's because we've been imperfect at getting these done that there's a delay. But the other thing that I would ask, Frank, in your presentation of these that would be really helpful for me is, there's the criteria that it takes to qualify for a reclass, the A through G or whatever it is in our policy. If you could line it out in your executive summary there, A is majority of the job duties, just put met or not met for each of the criteria. I think that would be easier visual representation, at least for me, just to see where and why these are qualifying for a reclass.
Absolutely.
I think that would also be a good idea for new positions when they request, is it evaluating it as well?
Will do. So I will bring that forward then. I don't believe it will be available for next Monday, depending on how quickly all of the other departments respond. But I would assume that the following Monday would be more than sufficient time for us to come back.
Hey, let's make that happen.
The next item we have is a request to add an interim financial analyst for succession planning. Again, within the same framework of the request for the senior financial analyst. We have somebody that's retiring next year, and the auditor's office is hoping to get somebody on board as a interim to pick up the requirements and skills for that position, as that position then leaves in retirement. Is this something that you want to add into the analysis to be put forward in 2 weeks, or is this something that you think you can make a decision on here?
Just a question for Patty, maybe, for the auditor. Just so this looks like it's scheduled to start in July. Am I reading that correctly? And then
Correct.
what kind of a recruitment do you anticipate for this in terms of length of time that it would take to get, somebody onboarded for July?
If my hope is that this will be on your agenda next Tuesday, and we'll go out Wednesday and start a recruitment, and just have it open until it's filled is my intent.
And is the salary that you're setting for this based on the reclass that was just discussed? This is a separate thing.
So those, at least in my mind, those two things are related but separate. And that this is, so the reclass would create 2 levels of financial analysts, a senior financial analyst and then financial analysts. The 4 people we have in financial services right now are all financial analysts. We don't have a senior financial analyst. So this would be a 5th financial analyst, absent the reclass, until one of our current financial analysts retires next May. And the idea is to bring somebody in to learn the ropes, that as the year goes on, there are different aspects to this job of creating the preliminary budget. They're just year-end closeout, all those things. And our hope would be to have somebody here for as much of a full year as we can do.
Great, thank you.
Patty, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I questioned, why so soon? Why is it so urgent to get that position filled and have a person shadowing, I guess, our current person? And it was explained to me for those reasons exactly, because that position has so much going on throughout the year that it's not something you can pick up in 2 or 3 months.
Right. Unless one is here for preliminary budget time, one isn't going to know about how to do the preliminary budget. And so that's just as an example. That happens in a discrete period of time during the year. And so our hope is to have somebody new on board to learn as many of these things as they can.
The commissioners, are you supportive of putting it on this next week's agenda?
Yeah, since the salary isn't tied directly to the reclass that we're also considering, and we know that there's going to have to be a succession plan anyway, regardless, I'm supportive.
Commissioner Trask?
I'm supportive.
Okay, let's move forward.
The next item we have, commissioners, thank you, Patty. The next item we have is a request for authority to do a working at a higher class pay. We have an individual who has left, the election superintendent, and Susan Blankenship, the assistant elections administrator, will be filling in until the replacement is found. And by contract, we're required to pay her at a higher class, at a minimum of 5%. And this is requesting that she be paid at the same salary rate that the election superintendent was, which is slightly over the 5% number. I believe it was 5.6%.
I'm supportive. Commissioners, you supportive?
In light of having to do canvassing board next week or this week, I am supportive.
Commissioner Trask?
I am supportive. I feel bad for her. So yes, absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, Frank, what else?
Next item is again the Mason County Employee Pandemic Exposure Control Mitigation
Freudian slip there.
Recovery Policy. We brought this forward last week and was asked to bring it back again this week for some additional follow-up and review. Can we put this on the action agenda for the following Tuesday?
Does anybody have any heartburn with it, with the changes?
I do not. I'm good with it.
No, I thought it was well put together. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move forward, Frank.
Thank you, Commissioners. And the last item we have is the 2021 budget amendments. Jennifer?
Yes, good morning. We have the requests so far for the 2021 supplemental appropriations and amendments. So far, they're all in the general fund, the requests. We have a total of $35,407 in supplemental requests, coming mostly from grant funds. We have a emergency management and then AOC funding to pay for different expenditures. And then I believe all of the other amendments have been briefed previously to the board. The total in supplemental requests is $35,407. And then the expenditures would increase by $100,257. This will be briefed again next week with additional requests. One of them will be the auditor's office adding that succession person. And then I did receive another request from Therapeutic Courts for a grant. And I think there's one also coming from Public Works. So any questions on these so far? I know that I did accidentally put 2020 on the attachment A sheet, and that should be 2021. So I'll make that change next week.
Questions, commissioners?
Nope.
Okay, I think we're all good.
Thank you.
That's all we had. Thank you, Commissioners.
Wait, commissioners, do you have anything for support services?
No, but just two things for commissioner discussion, I guess, when we get to that.
Okay. Commissioner Trask, do you have anything for support services?
No.
Okay, commissioner discussion, please.
Yeah, commissioners, just looking to see if there is interest in doing again this year a proclamation for National Corrections Officer Week.
Absolutely.
National Police Week.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes,
I can work with Diane on that then.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
You said two things.
That was, well, two proclamations.
Okay. All right. Any other commissioner discussion?
Nope.
Commissioners, would you like 5 minutes?
Yeah, let's take a quick break.
Okay, we are going to adjourn for 5 minutes and come back at 11:05. Let's go ahead and move into community service with Dave Windom.
Hey, good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
So we have a guest speaker today who's going to help with one of our briefing pieces. So we're going to kind of jump a little bit ahead to the Thurston Mason Disabilities Program presentation. You've had the presentation for a week and you've had the report. So I'm not sure that we need to go through the presentation, but Annalisa Cole and I are here to answer questions. And Annalisa, if you could just kind of introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the program, and then we can go from there.
Absolutely. Good morning, commissioners, and thank you, David. I'm Annalisa Cole. I am the Interim Social Service Program Manager for Thurston and Mason County Developmental Disabilities, and I also run the High School Transition Program. One of the things that I realized as I transitioned into this position was that our interlocal agreement for the developmental disabilities program was coming due this year. We have had this interlocal agreement for about 30 years with Mason County, and through that program, we have funded numerous aspects of supporting individuals with developmental disabilities in our area. That includes transportation, community inclusion activities, employment services, as well as high school transition, which is geared towards hopefully connecting more of our students with developmental disabilities with employment and other opportunities after graduation. During the past year, obviously, the pandemic has had a pretty significant impact on our ability to spend our funding, as a lot of employers had furloughed several of our clients, and a lot of our regular community inclusion activities had kind of basically fallen off as well. But we are hoping this year with the introduction of our new request for proposal for additional community services that we'll be able to again start supplementing some of the services that are available in Mason County. As the presentation indicates, and again, I won't go through that, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to chat about it. We have brought on several new programs during the past couple of years, and we've been able to serve quite a few more clients at this point. So, do you have any questions or thoughts or concerns, or did you want me to go over any of the aspects of either the budget or the presentation at all?
Commissioners?
I guess I would just ask kind of, long term, what kind of goals or opportunities are there for Mason County, and how can we continue to kind of build our partnership with you to strengthen the programs going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. One of the things that I highlighted in our presentation is that we, excuse me, have a lot of new employers and partners that we brought on within the community. We're going to continue expanding our services, and through our contracted supported employment agencies, we've actually brought more providers to Mason County. So previously, kind of our main focus for Mason County and serving Mason County was through exceptional foresters and career quests. Now Morningside is providing services, as is Vadis, and Centerforce is looking to expand as well. So we're hoping to be able to provide more vendor choice for our clients. But additionally, one of the things that incorporating all of these additional services is that we're making more connections with our partners. As you'll see on the presentation, one of the things that we were actually pretty happy to see was that there's been a lot of connections with the local tribes, and there's been, they've not only come on as interested partners in making sure that individuals within the tribes are served, but additionally, they've also come on as employers and have been phenomenal partners in that way. The other thing that we're hoping to continue to improve and increase is transportation. We do know that Mason Transit Authority has had some difficulties just in being able to have the capacity to serve a lot of our clients. We have increased our services through Coastal Community Action, and we're now providing additional transportation options for our clients that are both in high school transition programs, as well as our working adults and individuals that are accessing the community. As I mentioned, through the request for proposal, we're hoping to bring in more things. During the past couple of years, we have brought in a healthy relationships program that has been well attended by our developmental disabilities clients as well as their caregivers. And that helps support not only healthy interpersonal relationships, but also teaches about appropriate boundaries with employers and caregivers and things along those lines. We've also been able to bring in a job club, which is targeted again towards high school transition students. And again, the intent in focusing on that group is to be able to have greater successes with individuals that are graduating and more individuals that are connected with the community in their adult years.
Great. And then I guess, the other question that I had looking at your presentation, we have a client count of about 76 that you noted on there. Kind of just thinking about that in terms of, that number versus, like what would be the capacity of our programming here, of the work eligible DD community, what gap are we missing there? And what are your plans to maybe, how can we help you kind of increase that number?
Yeah, that is a great question. And actually that was one of the other one of the other programs that we recently incorporated, Morningside has now taken on what are called the pre-ETS program through DVR. And what that does is it actually provides outreach to all high school students that are either in a 504 or an IEP plan. So we're, again, connecting with more individuals there. What that does additionally is not only support those students, but those families and helping them become more connected with services. Part of the reason why that client count is relatively low is the fact that there, I believe, is kind of a lot of stigma around accessing state services when it comes to Mason County. So one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that families are educated about those resources, connecting with those resources. And one of the things that I'm personally doing is helping several individuals walk through the process of DDA and DVR eligibility. And so even in the past couple of years, we've seen a stark increase in the number of individuals that are now eligible for those services that were not before. And that is one of the targeted efforts that we have. The other thing that we're going to be providing this summer is another summer internship opportunity, and that will be provided by at least 3 of our contracted providers. And the purpose of that is, again, just to make sure that families are aware of the services that are available, making those connections and ensuring that families have access to those services. So what we're also hoping to see is an increased client count and more individuals that are aware of and able to access those services.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you.
And at least one thing I'd just like to add, and we'll have the conversation. Perhaps you can give me a call sometime. We'll have it offline. In regards to, I'm from North Mason, and a lot of our North Mason folks have to get serviced, and kids happen. Somehow we need to make a better connection between us and you. So if you wouldn't mind connecting with me sometime so we could talk about that further and look for opportunities and options, please.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to do that. North Mason is one of our areas too, that again, you know, it is always a little sad to see our clients leaving to go over to other counties for work opportunities. So one of the things that we're trying to do through our transportation availability is, again, just expand services to North Mason clients. But I do think that that is a great conversation to have. My counterpart in Kitsap County and I often chat about how to kind of, you know, improve services in that area. So I would love to have that conversation with you as well.
Thank you. Commissioners, other questions, comments?
Just a quick question. Annalise, how difficult has the past year been how difficult has it been to provide services that they so critically need?
Yeah, initially it was quite difficult because I just think that, as with most agencies, with most everything that is existed in our world, it was really difficult to adapt from a in-person support service model to virtual services. That was particularly difficult for our clients. And so one of the things that we did was we have worked with WISE, which is the Washington Initiative for Supported Employment. They brought a lot of technical assistance and professional development to our providers and actually taught them how to help our clients access virtual programming until we could resume in-person services. So we did do a very quick change in service model. It was a little bit difficult to adapt to, but I would say after about the first 4 months, our clients were readily accessing virtual programs. And then as the community began opening up again, thankfully, most of our employers did actually resume hiring and rehiring our clients, which was great to see. So again, it was more so of a furlough rather than a permanent layoff. And thankfully, at this point in time, we actually have a good number of Mason County clients that have resumed work at this point in time. And for those that haven't been able to resume work, we've been able to incorporate some one-on-one time, and we've gotten basically, we've been able to resume some one-on-one in-person services with them to ensure that their skills continue to be supported and that we're teaching them different ways to reconnect with the community, but also stay safe as they return to work and return to social activities.
Great, thank you. Let's hope that we don't have any more setbacks.
Completely agreed. And I think that we're all kind of waiting on bated breath for that. But we are prepared this time. So thankfully, we at least know what to do. We have the resources, we have the tools, and we have the training. So fingers crossed that, you know, we'll continue moving forward instead of stepping backwards.
Well, thank you for not forgetting those that are often forgotten.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And thank you for that presentation.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Any other questions or thoughts or comments?
Nope. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that in mind, the next piece of this is the interlocal agreement. You have it with you. We'd like to bring this into the action agenda for next week.
Any heartburn with that, commissioners?
Good with me.
I'm good.
There are none. We will put it forward.
All right, perfect. Hey, thank you, Annalise.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah, you
Thank
too.
you.
And next we have Todd Parker.
Good morning. Since the last briefing on April 12th, I've had some additional contact with the Public Utility District 3, and they do want to pursue funding. So they've requested $300,000 for utility assistance, and that would only be out of that kind of rent utility category. So they're not asking for any operations or administration. So just direct for utility assistance. In the budget, that still leaves us with about $700,000 left in that category. So everything's within budget.
Great. Supportive.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Well, back to you next week. Thanks.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Okay, next we have Alex.
Yes, good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
We're looking to update our sewage code. This chapter has not been updated since 2009, and we have a handful of updates needed that will address some industry program changes and challenges that we're facing now and have been for several years. We're planning to work with our sewage advisory committee initially, and then Board of Health and Commission concurrently before hearing and adoption. Today, we're just keeping you informed, looking for approval to continue with some draft edits. I'd be happy to answer any questions or go through these changes proposed in more details if you want to today. Otherwise, we can discuss further when we get a proposal together too.
Yeah, I have a specific request when you get the proposal together that you show what is required by law and what is being requested, and that there is a difference between the two. So if you have things that you'd like to see, things that the committee would like to see, but I'd like to see it offset by a specific listing of what things are required by law to include.
Yeah, we can do that. One of the things too to know, our state code is proposing changes. That's in relation to on-site sewage systems. And that's been going through, its process for the last few years. And they just keep postponing the implementation of that. We were initially kind of waiting, thinking that that might be going into effect here this year. But with code and everything, they just keep pushing it back. And we feel like some of these changes we need are now, and we're kind of tired of waiting. So that's just something to note, that we do have some state code changes coming up too.
Okay, so and you say are now as in this is your preference or to be in compliance? Because if we're waiting for that state code, it doesn't sound like it's to be in compliance.
I guess it depends on what change we're talking about to answer that question. So for one, like the requirements around home sales, the state code right now is proposing language that would require all systems be inspected within a year. Currently, our code, it mirrors that except for gravity systems, which is one of the changes that we're feeling is needed now. So it's something that we can change now ahead of time because our committee, is feeling like that's maybe needed, or we can wait for the state code to, make us do that. That's just one example. There's some other things in here that it's more so just, like our building permit policies, where a lot of these requirements are existing. We're not looking to change anything. We're just looking to strengthen them by putting them in code. It also, just puts more transparency out there for the public on what our requirements are around building permits. So there's a few things, like I said, this code hasn't been updated since 2009. So there's a few things that we'd like to do. And it's a combination of the committee weighing in and staff and our expertise. expertise in dealing with it on a day-to-day. But we can go through it more in detail once we get language together and kind of explain some of these changes for you.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments or questions?
No, I'm good to wait and see the changes outlined with the justifications and the connections to advisory committee comments and state law. So I'm good with you moving forward.
Yep, me too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and lastly, I just have a couple of quick updates on some public health things that came up over the weekend. One of which is the state budget. Just kind of a heads up, this is a 21 to 23 biennium budget. And it does, although 1152 dropped the reorganization of public health piece, it is still in the budget. So we're going to be working with DOH to see what exactly that means. If they've gone ahead and have funded the reorganization of public health to these regional centers, what does this mean? Is it something that the DOH is just going to move forward on? So that conversation is going to be had here very shortly, probably this week. The next thing is we're expecting a governor announcement tomorrow. We had meetings over the weekend about phases. Do we roll backwards? Do we pause? We gave recommendations from all the different size counties, so large, small, urban, rural, and we'll hear from the governor tomorrow.
Can't wait.
Yeah. So, any questions on that? All right, Commissioner.
I was just, there's so many different lines that could come after that statement. I just didn't know. I'm just going to leave it all alone and stick to business because of time. So
yeah. So it's we came out okay in the legislative budget for foundational public health and then maintaining core public health funding. We came out actually pretty good, really good. The budget looks good going to this next year. Now, how it gets broken out by district, that's where the rubber meets the road over the next few weeks. So I will keep you included in that conversation.
On pins and needles.
Yep. So it could be back.
Yep.
And that's all I have.
Commissioners, do you have anything for him?
Oh, so much, but so little time. Just kidding. I don't have any.
I want to thank you. I was talking to Kellen, some of the things you guys are putting together. I can't wait to see some of that come forward. I know I've already said it before. Time is of the essence on that stuff. Please bring him shortly.
Will do.
Thank you.
It's actually mostly about 3/4 written already, so you'll have it.
All right, so hearing nothing else there, I have nothing for you either. Thank you very much. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to move forward. We're going to move over to Public Works, Loretta Swanson, Utilities and Waste Management, please. I don't.
Loretta's on the other phone, so I'm going to start it off for her.
Okay.
First item is National Public Works Week, May 16th to 23rd. I'm not going to read it because we don't have time. Next item is two items is adjustment for our road fund balance. We had, as you know, we did the salt shed in 2020, but it did not get completed until March of 21. And so about $126,000 was expended out of this year's budget that wasn't planned. So we'd like to reduce the fund balance to cover that because it was budgeted in 2020. Additionally, the two dump trucks that we ordered back in March of 2020 actually didn't show up till March of 2021. And and we'd like to actually reduce the road fund balance, beginning balance for that too.
You're talking with Jennifer to make sure that, because are we going to have some type of an adjustment with that if it was scheduled and it wasn't in this year's?
Yes, we've been working with Jennifer. Loretta has been working with Jennifer on this.
Thank you. Okay.
Next item, Richard.
Hey, I'm here. Let's see. I got a supplemental appropriation for North Bay that, of course, we've been working with Victor and Loretta and Jennifer. We budgeted a significant amount of expected capital facility fees for North Bay, almost $250,000. And to date, we've have almost $13,000 collected in CFCs for North Bay, with quite a few permits still coming in. So we're expecting another at least 125,000 to come in. And coincidentally, we have some work that needs to be done in North Bay at a lift station that I won't mention it any further than that.
Sorry. So we're going to use this, you're going to come to us with a recommendation to utilize those funds immediately this year?
Yes.
Gotcha.
So just a quick question on that. For those repairs, is that something that would be, maybe you should be considering using American Rescue Plan money for versus our capital on that system? I mean, I think certainly sewer is eligible. Is it maybe make more sense for us to use that funding as opposed to the funding you're suggesting?
Well, to me, it makes all the sense in the world if we could get that to pay for it. And if that's possible, then my recommendation would be to put this into a reserve account for North Bay. And I'm working, like I said, Victor's not here today, but that's something I'll bring up with him as our finance manager.
Yeah, certainly supportive of the work. But, as we're starting to pencil out what requests might be coming to us, for use of the rescue plan dollars, certainly seems like we should be outlining some of our internal projects and being able to take advantage of that funding for it internally as well.
Oh, I agree 100%. And just so you know, we do have some projects that are geared for that we've got, and this is one of them that fell in that list too. I'd have to talk to Victor to find out more rationale.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if there's some reason that you feel like you can get it done quicker this way, that is what it is. I mean, that's fine. You know what I mean? I don't want to delay things that are necessary, but at the same time, if there is a little bit of flexibility on the timing, might be a significant boost to the system if we're able to use outside federal dollars for it.
Sounds good to me. I'm 100% with you.
Maybe if you guys could put together a list of some of your top priorities for the ARPA money, that would be cool too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I do have that list, and it's part of our SEDS list. It's been so that well, it's fairly well developed.
You mean this list?
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's listed on there right now, but it is on mine.
What else you guys got?
The only thing we have left is the upcoming calendar action items, public hearings for the annual program and the 6-year program to make some revisions. So that's next May 11th.
Any questions on that, commissioners?
None for me.
All right. Do you have any questions for Public Works? I have one. I have somebody contacting me. Can you please send me a contact information for the state DOT for trimming on Highway 106? We got somebody who claims they're being blocked from accessing the road because of all the brush that's growing up. The danger is so high. If I could just get them a contact information, it would be appreciated.
We will get that over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I have. Anything else? All right, guys. Thank you very, very much. All right. So next up, we're going to move right on to SC Johnson. Tom, I see you're on there. Welcome.
So, Commissioner, I'll just do a quick introduction of Tom and and Heather Berlinski from SC Johnson. So just for everybody's knowledge and some context, about a year ago, Tom had reached out to me and had an opportunity for us to work with him and Heather at SC Johnson on a pilot program to collect plastic film, recycled plastic film, which is, if you're anything like me, you know, those things like Ziploc bags and other plastic dry cleaning bags and things like that, they do end up in your regular recycling where they don't belong. But now they have an option to actually recycle those materials. And so we've been working on this for the past several months. And they have a presentation and can answer questions for us on this. The program is going to live predominantly in the city of Shelton. And they're very enthusiastic about the opportunity to work with SC Johnson on it. And it's going to be administered through Mason County Garbage, Waste Connections. And our component, as you'll hear in the presentation, is storing and shipping the material. And so it's really an exciting opportunity for the community to pilot this and to hopefully see an opportunity to build from there. And so just a lot of thanks to Tom and Heather, as well as Chad White and Tom Rupert from Waste Connections working with us on this. So with that, Tom and Heather, I'll kick it over to you. And I think Heather maybe is going to be doing a screen share to walk through their presentation. I think she has.
That's correct.
That. Okay.
Yeah. And just a side note here, if need be, I can share the screen, but Heather, I think, is prepared to do that as long as she's got the administrative clearance to do that on your end. So yeah, Kevin, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. So Kevin gave a really good snapshot there. My name is Tom Gurr. I'm a local consultant. I work in public affairs, and we have been working with SC Johnson to create opportunities for pilot programs with municipal governments around the state for the last year or two here, a couple years here. And had a chance to visit with Kevin about this here, I don't know, gosh, a year or so ago, year and a half ago. And we've been really working through all of the logistics and coming to a consensus on how best we can accomplish that. And it is a blend of really a program that's in the city, but will also include components from the county. And this is something that, as Heather will talk about, that is happening around the country. That is a major initiative by SC Johnson, and it's I think a tremendous opportunity for your community, and to really be one of the few at the front of the line here, because we've only done a few of these around the country, and they've been very successful, and we're thrilled that we have the opportunity with you guys. So with that, I'll turn it over to Heather, and she can go into the presentation, and let's just make sure she can share her screen. Heather, give us an update there on your screen sharing.
Sure. Good morning, commissioners, and thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for those introductions, Commissioner Chuddy and Tom. As Tom mentioned, I work for SC Johnson, and this is an initiative that we are spearheading across the United States, where we have partnerships in several states where we are looking to advance a conversation about film recycling, which we have seen has been challenging over the last decade or so in order to make substantial improvements. So we have made a company decision that we want to help contribute to these advancements, and that's what this program is designed to do. And it's spearheaded off of several other commitments that we've made and existing pilots that we are currently working through. Tom mentioned we've been working in the state of Washington for several years, and we actually have a successful program that we partnered on in Point Roberts, Washington, which was the second program that we supported in the United States. So we've had some success here on the West Coast, and we also have programs that we're running on the East Coast, and are really excited to bring a new program to the city of Shelton, and really appreciate the partnership with Commissioner Chuddy to initiate that, see the vision of the program, and help make the logistics work, given the local, the way your existing collection works. So let me share my screen now. And if someone can just verify that that is presenting.
Working.
Got it.
Perfect. So I believe you should have received these handouts in advance. So I won't be going through them in great detail, but are definitely happy to answer questions, spend a little bit more time on areas where you have questions or want clarification. But as I mentioned, this program is designed around the challenge right now as to how plastic film gets recycled in the United States. It is a material type that has grown in popularity over the last decade or so. As you can see here, there's a statistic that 3 billion pounds of plastic film is generated in the United States every year. And plastic film is a recyclable material, and the common way that it is recycled right now is through what you're probably familiar with, retail store take-back programs, where there's about 18,000 of those stores that have little kiosks where you can bring your plastic film back for recycling. And we have been, as a company, we've supported that initiative, supported the creation of those programs, continue to support investment in expansion. But as we've done studies about participation rates and whether residents are actually remembering to bag up their film and remembering to put it in the car and remembering to bring it back to the store whenever they go to the store, unfortunately that work that it takes to do all that process is resulting in a very low participation rate in which residents recycle this material type, where it's recycled at a rate of only about 4%, which means that 96% of film is likely ending up within the waste stream and thereby going to landfill. So we want to change that narrative about film and about how it is utilized for recycling. And our mission is really to promote and create a more circular vision for plastic film. And you can see a couple of examples of programs that we're sponsoring throughout the United States to help support this vision. One are the curbside programs, which is what we hope to kick off with the city of Shelton. The second one that you can see is technology advancements, which we have helped invest in to help improve sortation capability of film within large material recycling facilities. And the third little image is a nod to advancements in end markets and where film is utilized when it is recycled. So this is just another slide showing, our vision that material that is on the market gets recycled, gets reprocessed, and turned back into usable recycled material that can go back into the stream of commerce, either through new packaging or through durable goods, through that end market stream. These are examples of existing programs where we have sponsored similar programs to what we're looking to sponsor in the city of Shelton. Every program is designed to fit within an existing community's existing collection so that it's easily integrated, works within the existing pickup stream. So we do spend a lot of time making sure we understand that process and work collaboratively with the community so that residents are interested in participating and participate. And this slide showcases a summary of how the program is currently shaping up to coordinate with the city of Shelton and Mason County. We're targeting a start date around summer of 2021. We are working through Waste Connections on when exactly that start date will be. It's our understanding based on communication with them. They have some hiring challenges right now that they are working through. And once they're able to move through those issues, we'll be able to secure a date when we can start the program. But they've participated with us in the conversations about the design of the program and are ready and willing to implement it once we can lock in that date. We've identified 2 curbside routes within the existing collection pickup, which are a prime candidate for this pickup opportunity. And the program itself will run for a 6-month period. The residents within those existing routes will be getting curbside dedicated bins that have the city of Shelton branded on that bin, and they also reference that it is for film materials only. And the residents will then be given instructions on when a monthly pickup for that material will take place. And Waste Connections will do the curbside pickup on the frequency that works for those routes, and will then deposit the collected material at a location coordinated by Mason County. And once the collected material reaches a dedicated quantity, it will then be prepared for shipment to an end market, which we've helped facilitate, and we work with other programs that we've worked with in this region. And that's the summary of kind of how the program will run, how the residents will be educated. And, you know, just in summary, we're really excited to be at this stage where we've worked through these details and have the support from the city and the support from the county to move forward a program like this. And we're really excited to move forward to the final phase where we can initiate the program and hopefully have the residents value that added service. And happy to take any questions. I think that's my last slide. Any questions from commissioners on any of that content?
I have a few for you, Heather. First of all, you mentioned that Waste Collection will be doing the work. You guys will be paying for this, and this. Who's going to pay Waste Connections for their time, their effort, and the stuff they're doing? And is there any charge to the solid waste entities right now for any of this?
Yeah, so through the pilot program, we actually are entering into a partnership agreement with both the county and the city. And the partnership agreement aligns out kind of the parameters that I just talked about when the collection occurs and how the collection occurs. But it also includes a provision where we are going to help defray some of those implementation costs for the program in order for the facilitation of the program. So we're going to make some financial commitments to help pay for those collection bins. We're also going to help support Waste Connections through their costs to pick up the material on that monthly frequency. So that is built into the program in order to ensure that it is feasible for them and that the cost is not a barrier.
What is the final expectation that you're hoping to find? Are you looking to create a situation where we have another bin in everybody's yard and they pay a fee in order to do this? Or you're looking just to break even with the commodity itself? What's the end hope?
Yeah, so really the end goal is to showcase that residents will successfully recycle film on a much higher frequency when it is easier for them to recycle, that we see a high participation rate by having film be recycled through a curbside program. Because of the way your existing collection program works, the concept was designed to have a separate bin. I will say in all communities, we don't sponsor just that method. We have other communities where they don't have a separate bin and it's collected in a different way. But through our conversations with Waste Connections and how their existing collection works, they wanted to see this separate bin for the material pickup. So that's kind of why it was designed that way. But I will say it's probably the right way to go because film can be contaminated, I think is the term you would use, if it is commingled with other dirtier recyclable materials. So having that dedicated container makes it more pure and more readily available for recycling. So it is a good method to utilize for film, and that's why we chose it that way.
What about the final expectation to the customer? Are we expecting that we're going to be asking them to pay an additional $5 a month for pickup or $10, something like that? Is that the actual final thing? And this is a new requirement, burden, whatever term you want to put on the citizen, or?
Yeah, an added material that's adopted into the curbside program. That would be our ultimate, hope, is that communities such as yourself do add the material as a required material to be picked up. But the program right now is simply in a pilot phase. It's not turned on for the whole community. It's only going to run for a dedicated amount of time, and there's going to be some metrics collected throughout the program to see whether residents are receiving the program well, are participating at a high rate, and to see if they value that service. Through our program that we initiated with Point Roberts, that program ran for a year, and the community did decide that they wanted to continue their collection after our year partnership with them, and they got approval through the UTC, and actually did find that they had a reduction to their recycling service fee for residents, because they were taking that amount of material out of the waste stream, thereby reducing the tipping fee that is paid on that material. So there was, it's nothing to write home about, but there was a measurable, I think it was, Tom can correct me, I think it was about 43 cents. So in that program and in that case, I can't say that's going to be replicated here, until we get into the details on it. But in that community, we were able to showcase that there was at least a cost reduction or no added fee for the community to continue their program.
Thank you.
And I would just, if I could just add to that, I think the important part of this is, a lot of this is going to be a future conversation with Waste Connections on, how successful this program was or wasn't, and we won't know that until we do the pilot and see what the response in the community is. But there would be the mechanisms to expand what we recycle, would have to be discussed, both at the county level, but certainly since this is happening in the city, for their services, they would have to be on board with that, as well as Waste Connections. So I think more than anything, this is an opportunity to see what the community's responsiveness is to having a chance to recycle these in a more convenient way, versus looking to expand service without any of that background.
So
Yeah,
sorry,
if I could interject real quick, sorry. I want to emphasize on Heather and Kevin's point that the notion that it continues past the pilot is aspirational. We hope that that's the case, but that is not part of. I want to be clear. There is no agreement that will be that the city or the county is committing to do that post pilot. I mean, that we are just trying to initiate a pilot that aspirationally we would love to see have value for the community, but by no means is there a commitment that that's going to happen. I want to be clear about that. So we think there's value in it. We think it's a great thing that we hope you'll see value in it as well. But you're not committing to some sort of a extension after the pilot.
Yeah, and commissioners, just so for your own knowledge on this too. So Tom had sent over, it finally kind of worked its way through their process of an MOU that would outline the parameters of the program just this morning, as well as some of the cost sharing. And for our component, our costs would be minimal, and those are all kind of outlined in the MOU. And what I believe SC Johnson would cover our costs because they are so minimal, that there would be, for the pilot, no cost to the county. But that's currently with Tim Whitehead, and I forwarded that over this morning, and we'll get the commissioners a copy of that as well.
Thank you. Sharon?
Yeah, so you said that there'll be 270 20-gallon containers. Where will those be placed? I know in the city of Shelton, but are they based in communities? Will there be a central spot for the community to go to? How will that be designed?
So that's going to be our initial purchase of the dedicated film bins. And it's our understanding that Waste Connections will then communicate to residents that are on these routes where the pilot will take place. And those residents will indicate if they'd like to have a bin. And when they indicate that, then Waste Connections will drop off the bins that will then be their bin, their residential bin, and it'll be just like their existing recycling bin that they'll put out on the frequency in which the pickup occurs. So once it is delivered to that resident household, it'll remain at their household.
That makes sense. Thank you.
I'll be curious to see what you come up with, what this looks like at the end.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. There's so many times that I wish I could recycle bags, but and other items too, but I'm lazy. And so
it takes a lot of effort to remind yourself and to put it in a separate place in your house. And I do it myself. And sometimes I have a lot piled up in the trunk that I always forget.
Or you're cleaning out your garage and you go, oh, forgot about that one.
I'm amazed at how much film I end up getting, but I have a huge family though. So between everybody ordering everything and becoming film, everything I get that I pick up that's large seems to have some type of film on it. I'll be curious to see what it looks like in the end. Although I'm not a fan of programs that's going to cost the community more money. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm definitely open-minded to see if it is greatly a great benefit. We can't turn our nose up to things that we don't know about yet.
Mr. Chair, just one other thing. Chad White and Tom Rupert are on the line, and I didn't know if we maybe just wanted to hear from them.
I would one of you like to? Can you go ahead and stop sharing? You want me to stop it, or?
I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay. There we go. This way I can see everybody's faces better. Would one of you guys like to speak up at the moment? Chad, you interested in talking? There you are.
Sure. Would you? I mean, like she was talking about, the carts would be stored here, and then just delivered, for customers that want them. And we ready to do this, fully ready to do this, but kind of had unforeseen events. We're a couple head short right now, so just looking for some drivers right now, and that's been a little difficult. So as soon as we can get a hold of some drivers, we'll be back in the driver's seat as far as having the manpower to do this. So,
Thomas, do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think Chad covered it fairly well. As far as the logistics of the carts, we've identified two routes, separate routes in the Shelton area. Like it was said before, we'll send out flyers, see who's interested, and off we go.
Yeah. If you don't mind, share the list of what stuff would be allowed with the commission as well. I'm curious to see exactly what the breakdown is, to see how much of the stuff that I get piled up would actually be going into it. Again, you'd be surprised how much I have. My garage sometimes will be filled with stuff that it feels wrong just to throw it all away that way, but there's not much other option. And then on top of that, it also uses up that space in the trash can I need so bad. So I would probably pay to have it go somewhere else. So rather than be wasted also.
Just real quick, will this take a special truck, a different truck than what you already have, Chad?
No, we'll use current trucks.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
I just wanted to just real quick, just give a lot of credit to Heather, Chad, and you know, for really everybody putting their heads together on how to make this work. I think it's went through multiple iterations, and you know, well, how would it work if we did this, or how would it work if we did that, and just really impressed with everybody coming together and trying to work through those issues to get us to the point where we're able to put an MOU in front of both the county commission and the city council for consideration to do this. And I think it's a really exciting educational opportunity for the community, as well as you know, Mason County Garbage is out there talking about this, or you know, to their customers, or SC Johnson is doing promotional work in the community to be able to talk to the community about you know, the effect that a program like this could have, or if it, you know, what happens to that stuff when you drop it in the trash and walk away from it, and it gets out there. So just really appreciate all the effort, and look forward to getting the commission the MOU once we're done here.
Thank you. Anything further? All right. Thank you guys for joining us today. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm sure you'll be hearing more as the MOU works its way through the process.
Sounds good.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, any commissioner discussion? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no objection, we are adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.